Good morning, everyone. Paula Mattisonsierra again. Big topic today, the loneliness crisis. So, a recent study found that a staggering 47% of Americans often feel lonely, left out, lacking any kind of meaningful connections. So, we're going to discuss that today. And again, we do not have medical degrees, but we are actively in the marketplace, observationally seeing this research unfold in front of us. And we wanted to just kind of share our thoughts on it. So, of course, at the end of the broadcast, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, if anyone's listening during as well, if you have any opinions, we'd love to pop you up on the screen as well. Again, good morning. I'm Paula Mattisonsierra, Power Marketing SF. I'm your host of 10 at 10. Our continued mission is to share business and life information from my referral partners. There's all these great people that I meet to help you to keep moving forward. And this morning, our guest today is Sunil Bhaskaran, speaker, trainer, mentor, author. How many things do you have there? You're awesome. um, He's the founder of the Global Business Mastermind. And Sunil, why don't I have you jump in here and share with us? Tell us what that's all about. Share a little bit with us who you are.
Sure. Yeah. My my vision is to have 100 million joyful and successful entrepreneurs in the world by 2027. And currently, we have a network of about 120,000 business owners and professionals across the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada now. And we're building out towards the world and working towards that. What I teach just really quickly is the art and science of how to build a large audience, whether it's for your business or your projects or your vision, and to engage people. So, of course, in the course of that, uh, I got to meet you, and we got into a very healthy, great discussion on loneliness and how it impacts people, because that's what we do. That's what I see almost on a yeah, it's on an hourly basis, really, with
Of
lots
course,
and lots of
yeah,
people who want to connect. Yeah.
yeah. And
So
so, I figure this is such a big topic, and I know everyone, we're not going to get to everything today, but Sunil and I met last week at what was it, the Silicon Business Success party, and we just connected. I mean, again, it's such a meaty topic. I had to stop him and say, you need to be on the show. You need to share this information. Please.
that's exactly how you looked is, you got to be on the show.
Well, I appreciate it so much, and because oftentimes I see it even on the marketing side, surprisingly,
Yeah.
because there is people are feeling so cut off and not developing some of these basic skills because they're feeling so isolated. I get to them and now I'm sitting with them to go over the basics of marketing, making sure that their plan is going and everything. But I'm finding that sometimes I can't get them to get past the sales end
Yeah.
because they're not feeling very comfortable because they've been isolated so long, so it's affecting the business in general as well.
Yeah.
So my first question to you that I'm going to throw out there,
Sure.
the internet. Okay, so I'm going to try to show the title on the screen. Um, you know,
Yeah.
Thankfully to the internet, it's a wonderful, remarkable piece of technology that's
Sure.
allowed us to connect.
Yeah.
Of course, it comes with good and bad. Yeah.
Right.
What's your opinion on that? I'd love to hear.
Oh, well, I mean, the internet, of course, is great. And I come from a engineering computer science background. I studied artificial intelligence in my college days. And, when you look at digital marketing, yeah, it makes things a lot easier. And I think, like anything that's complicated, it has its good sides and its so-called bad sides, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And nothing really still beats organic face-to-face in-person connection.
True. That is
uh,
so true.
Nothing beats it. And it's a mystery to me, but it's a beautiful mystery, and I'm sure there's biological reasons for it. you know it might sound grotesque right now, but the smell of somebody right in front of you, watching their face, right? And we about a good percentage of our brains are dedicated to facial recognition, visual functions, and it's so complicated, so beautiful as you engage in it.
Yeah.
That what I found is that people are getting more and more disenchanted
Yeah.
with online marketing from both sides, right? From both the seller's point of view, like you shared, people are very antsy about appearing to look like the contrived marketer out there. Hey, look at me! I'm really great, and hey, you should buy stuff from me.
It's true. Love the impression, by the way. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah, well, sure. Having hung out with you, that you are quite off that mark. I mean, I'm a marketer too, and I get that as well. I mean, people go, "Oh, you're a typical marketer," then and they assume a lot of stuff, right?
I forgive. I ask for forgiveness for my people all the time because of that.
Sorry. But it's this kind of connection, right, that makes the real difference
Yeah.
and builds trust and connection. And so I've gone through that too. I've gone through the whole rigmarole of trying to be the and
You
but
get pulled in, right? I mean, you get pulled in sometimes to the script of what, like, well, this is what you're supposed to do. And, actually, I was at a networking event yesterday and we got into these different discussion groups. My group, of course, was marketing and I was leading that. And everyone was sitting there waiting for these ideas. And I said, I'm going to disappoint you because that's not how it works. Who's your client? Every client group is going to be different and you're going to respond to them differently. It can't be the same idea for everyone.
You can't be a cookie cutter person and just take a model from someone and apply it blindly and single-mindedly to your own business. Like all of us are unique, and it's the uniqueness that I think sells better. And I say I think because there are exceptions, right? To the rule. But
no, totally.
yeah, but
I mean, if you're selling T-shirts, I mean, and even then, even then, it's like you might want to see a real person and not just a T-shirt on a frame. It's you need more. I often tell my clients that the internet's really just a support of who you already are. You can't bypass that portion of it. I think that's why video, just like we're doing right now, is so much more effective because you really get a chance to hear an opinion and see the way, your potential, who you're about to patronize, who they are and what they stand for. I think it just gives you a little bit more of a conversation to listen into, again, it's that need for people contact, right? But even then it still made us, I love the internet, but sometimes it's so easy to just kind of not be around people.
Yeah, it's very tempting. I'm actually an introvert. You may not believe this, but it's quite true. I'm a social retard, according to some people. I network a lot. I mean, I have huge events. I come home, but I got to cuddle up my Shakespeare once I come home. I gotta have my own time. I
understand. I tell that to people about myself, and they always laugh in my face. And I'm like, I really am, but I've made myself like this to get out of my shell. But once I'm done, I really just prefer to come home and just sit and want to watch some bad television. I want to sketch, So I get where you're going.
Well, this should be reassurance to all you introverts out there. But I look at marketing as 4 levels, if I may. And I think this might be interesting. There's tactical marketing, which is what most people do, right? Oh, should I be on Facebook, or should I go do a meetup, or should I speak or get on LinkedIn? They're thinking very tactically, and that's just a little effective, but not really effective. Mostly, I'm sure Then the next step up is when you start looking at strategy and who and what and where and when you market to. And then there's vision-based marketing, where you have visionaries who have a great vision. But what I've really started engaging in recently is something I call divine marketing, which
What-
is not really necessarily spiritual or religious in nature, but it's in asking the open-ended question, what's for the highest good with the people that I'm interacting with, while staying true and honest to myself and to what I feel in the moment, or with what I'm doing with my business. And
I
it's
love it.
been, yeah, it's been remarkable. I'm glad you like it too. I love it too. And I'm sure I was very confident you'd like this too. Is because it takes all the things you shared about people who are nervous about selling and marketing. When you frame marketing as doing what's in the highest good for your community, your prospects, etc., as you do it more, what I've found is I become very clear and uh, uh, very unhindered in how I sell.
Yes.
And I make sure that
Well,
I
if
sell
you
in a
have a
way
goal, right? It's true to your heart. So
that's
it's a
true to
lot
my heart.
easier.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it is true to my heart.
Yeah.
Uh, and different people have different interpretations of what the highest good. Some people have very spiritual, religious. Some are philosophical. But most people can agree more or less what the highest good is for everyone who's involved, co-clients and other people who are around them who are engaged with you. And so when you build a community, it becomes more interesting. When you build a vision, marketing gets more interesting, more organic, more engaging, more compelling,
Yeah.
and it's natural. You don't have to work at it too hard. You need to have a very complete and concise messaging for sure, because you don't want to put people asleep. But at the same time, you don't do divine marketing and have them have divine sleep. So not very
It could be restful though. It could be
could be
very
restful.
restful, Sunil. Maybe that's the business that you're in, to get people to sleep. Because that's a whole nother
Yeah.
crisis that could be discussed in another topic. The
That's
sleep
right.
crisis,
The
right?
second meeting after they sleep. So
I love that though. It really it's something that and I think when we met I spoke to you about the book that I was reading, the E-Myth Revisited, and that's one of the things at the very end of the book that he discussed, that none of this makes any difference if it's not near and dear to your heart. Don't start with a business goal, start with your life goal. How does the business fit into the life goal? And of course your community, how are you going to affect your community around you? And you're
yep,
right, I feel like technology, as it pulls you in, right? It's like, I was joking with a friend the other day. It's like, well, aren't you using Amazon for groceries? And I'm like, no, I kind of like to go to the supermarket. She's like, no, 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 you should use it, it's so much fun. I go, something, I don't want to hear about it,
yep.
because I'll never leave the house. There's never a reason to leave the house.
No, it's like
Everything can be delivered to you, or making you more and more isolated, by fulfilling your basic needs. But sometimes you got to make the effort to get out, because at the end of the day, I think the loneliness crisis it's also, I think everything we do is a choice. I mean, I don't know if people will agree with that later. So please, anyone who's watching, I think some of it, I'm not going to say all, is sometimes a choice, right? So it's your choice how you run your business,
yeah,
how you build your community, because that's something that you are heavy on as well, and choices to get out, right? So do I
yeah.
get out and build my business that way, or do I hope to get everything through the net, But this one's a really big one. So I'm going to roll into really nicely into the
Mm,
next one, which is this specific to an age group? Because I noticed the millennials are getting a lot of hit right now. They're getting hit pretty hard. They're getting body blows from people. They're getting punches about how they are, and that it's just them. You
yeah.
know, what's your opinion on this?
I think, I mean, yeah, certainly, I think the statistics point towards millennials having certain characteristics of issues, and that's certainly something that jives with me. I get approached, I'm a healthy 56-year-old, really. Yeah,
Is it, well, 56 and healthy, that's a big deal,
hey, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and born around the time when the Beatles were first coming up, so it's always possible.
Oh,
Um, anyway, uh, the I get approached by millennial men mostly and women too for two things. Mostly advice on career build and on entrepreneurship to a certain extent, but mostly about relationships. And they're hungry. They're hungry for the kind of mentoring I was lucky to receive when I was a young
yeah.
whippersnapper myself.
Yeah, I
Uh,
did. You're right, because when we were growing up, I felt like there was a lot of those conversations with
sure.
your, I guess, elders or just conversation in general.
Yeah.
I don't think those exist anymore. It's just kind of go
Well,
on.
you had to almost because we didn't have this back then, and you didn't have tons and tons of content. I mean, a movie would come out once a year, and you go, I got to go see the Star Wars movie. It's coming out in 6 months.
You were talking about it for months, right? It's
Yeah,
like
you're talking about it for months, and you don't have any of those distractions, so you're almost forced to interact with, especially older people.
exactly.
But I was lucky. I had a good mentor who took me under his wing rather reluctantly at first because I was kind of flaky. But he was great. He was awesome. He was a Zen Buddhist monk, former Zen Buddhist monk, but he became a very successful business person. He had been coaching and mentoring for 40 years, since then. So I was lucky. I had that. I had that dialogue, and I think the key distinction for a lot of you is that um, even if it's just for millennial, which I don't quite believe, I think it's more pervasive than that. I think I'm seeing now older women who are in their 60s and 70s who have more time, and their faces are just as much in the smartphone as their younger kids are. Um, and so, not to say that the technology is bad. I think again the technology is a tool, but you have to respect the art and science of dialogue, which is really the should be the context behind using all this technology, right? So when I get on the phone, I'm always thinking about what can I do in the highest good for this person in this time I have with Paula. What can I do for the highest good for all of you who are listening in? And that frames the conversation more as a human being, rather than I'm in front of a phone now and I got certain things I want to multitask and do, which distracts you and in fact creates a lot more stress. And every time you multitask, by the way, your glucose level drops in your brain. And your
Uh,
glucose levels are what actually creates neurotransmitters in your brain. So it causes a lot of problems when you are engaged in technology without really having a powerful enough context behind it.
oh, no,
Um,
no doubt. I think you're completely right about that. I think the millennials definitely, they get hit a lot because of the era that they grew up in and how they socialize. But you're
yeah,
right. I'm feeling like I'm seeing it across a couple of different age groups, and it's
yeah,
not just the millennials alone. It's morphing into its different ways of being in different age groups. But I think that crisis exists across the board.
yeah,
I was reading a great article the other day about this trend of co-living and that a lot of older women and men have started sharing. It's like,
right,
well, my spouse died and now I have this big house by myself, but I love my house. I don't want to leave, but it's
right,
so lonely. And
yeah,
this trend of people starting to like, well, let me get a roommate. Why not? They'll help pay the bills and you'll have someone cool to talk to and interact. And
yeah,
so it's this growing trend as well. And
right,
so that's how some people have offset it. But not everyone's doing that, right? So
yeah,
it was interesting to hear your perspective that you're seeing it. And actually, the article did mention that it was strongly in older women as well. You
yeah.
know?
Mostly older women who bring in a younger women
Yeah,
into the household, and it makes for a wonderful mix. There's actually an episode on Vice, which is a
yeah,
series on HBO, which
yeah,
talks about it. It's a really cool episode, and but it's definitely a trend, and I think that's a positive trend.
yeah,
The more we can bring different kinds of people together to exchange views and dialogue, the more likely we are to expand our sense of possibility of who we are.
yeah,
But if you only look at data all the time with no context, I think the distinction maybe for a lot of you is if you're just getting data information and trying to figure out what to do in a certain specific amount of time, which is useful, but without the context of the meaning behind why you're doing all this stuff, then I think that's where we lose connection with who we are and the joy that we have, because you can't really do joy without a context with other people.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough to do joy or create joy by yourself. You can do it maybe for a while.
I mean,
You
I
know,
think you should always be happy within yourself as well. But you're right; it's so much better in a group.
so much better, so much more. Like everybody says, everybody, I have social groups. I bring my friends together for dinners, and you're
Yeah.
certainly invited to join. I'll send you an invite for sure. But we do this, and everybody says the same thing. Everybody says the same thing. Hey, we should do this more often. How many times do you hear that, right?
Oh no, all the
And I
time.
go, all the time, right?
Oh, wait, are
All the
you that
time.
person? Because I decided to nominate myself that person as well, because I
Yeah,
know it's not that they don't want to, it's
yeah.
that people don't find the time to, it's so easy
So
not
easy,
to find the time. And then you look around and you've been by yourself for so long
correct.
because we have all, like you said, the technology. I can get Netflix. I got to binge. Why do I have to binge
I don't
five
need to leave my
movies?
room. I can hang out by myself and be entertained,
I can be
Yeah,
by myself.
yeah,
A friend of mine, I'm not going to say the name, but said to me the other day, no, it's like after, because he has a really big job, and
yeah,
so he said, when I'm done, he goes, I like to be in a small space, and I
sure.
like to be by myself,
Yeah, and
and
I understand that.
I'm isolated.
Yeah, but if we don't make the time for it, there's a huge cost.
And I
There's a
told him,
payoff. There's a payoff and a cost in being socially isolated. The payoff is you don't have to deal with being responsible for other people, but the cost is that long-term suffering is the cost.
yeah,
Isolation and depression, and you can almost see people sliding into. I've seen myself slide into it from time to
yeah,
time.
and
Um,
health as well, because I noticed that
yeah,
that increases stress levels, right?
yeah,
And stress is a killer. I learned that firsthand a couple of years back and had to fix it
sure.
in myself. It's a killer. It's like the loneliness crisis is so tied to so much. We talked about jokingly talked about the sleep crisis,
Sure,
and then we talk about the stress crisis, and all of these things are so tied together. You
sure.
know, um, is that something that you often have a discussion about, like in your like? Actually, not often, because this is the nature, the mission statement of your whole
Yeah.
organization.
Well, I live and breathe this, So I mean, I'm a little crazy, but in a good way because when I go out and I go out to a coffee, so I actually get a little intrusive with other people around me, and I found this, most people are a little, this is a little weird, but uh, after a while, you
Notice
kind
that having a conversation, because I'm that person too. I'm like, I
oh
go.
yeah, we recognize each other, right? But here's the thing. I'm sure you've seen it too. Then you can't shut them up because they want so much to express
Right?
themselves. Yeah,
Because I feel like um, I give you one of the people in my accountability group. She's a chiropractor, and she
yeah,
says whenever her clients come in, she makes a point of giving them a bear hug, a big old hug. And I go,
yeah.
oh, that's nice. So it's good for wellness. She goes, no, because we live in San Francisco. We're in a city, and
Right.
there's so many people who are isolated by themselves, and I
Absolutely.
may be the only person who touched them all this week.
Probably
And so
so.
she's like, they're my clients. I know all of your business anyway.
Yeah,
Grabs them and gives them a big hug. She goes, every time. And
yeah,
how funny it is. She goes, the one time that I forgot to do it, like a
yeah,
client mentioned that to me. And she was like I knew I was doing it for a reason, but I
yeah,
didn't realize how important it was, you
yeah.
know?
Go on. Yeah, we
So
don't
I
realize.
love it when they talk like that. So what's your thought when you can't shut them up?
Oh, sometimes it's like, oh, crap. I wish I didn't start this conversation. I got to get going now. And then I realize, oh my God, I'm playing the same game. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh crap. But then I go, this person, like your friend, and I'm sure you've experienced it too, probably I'll be the only conversation for her or him today.
Yeah.
especially if they're an older person.
Yeah.
And when I see older people, I try to converse with them as much as I can,
Yeah.
because I know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're isolated. They feel a little less capable, so they don't do as much. They like to hang out with people their own age. They feel uncomfortable with me being a little bit more younger than they are. But when you reach out and connect with them, it's such a reassurance that what I found is most of the suppression that people have. When you walk down an alley and someone walks by and you're not even sure if you should smile or nod or acknowledge. I mean, I lived in Singapore where we had 2.5 million people. It was a small little island, and I used to think how strange because I myself was very shy. But someone would walk down. Occasionally, we'd have a blind alley. We'd walk down, and only the two of us. I can tell that person wants to connect, but he's kind of like looking straight ahead. I'm looking straight ahead. There's this really nervous, almost stressful few seconds when we pass each other. And then we go, I'm sure he's going to like, oh man, what the hell? That was
I could have said hello. I could have said good morning or something.
something. Didn't do it, and but when you do it, it's like, and some people are a little, I don't want to deal.
Well,
Yeah.
something, let's bounce into that because I want to make sure that we stay on point with all the questions that I'd love people to have in their head for the day. But you kind of started again. This is how we recognize each other, Sunil. We're friends now. You rolled right into my next question, which is this specifically an American thing? Because you have this global organization, you're all over. Are you seeing it in other places? And it sounds like you are. Is it in the same fashion? And now that the internet has connected us and really we're more similar than dissimilar now, I think.
I think it's more than that. I think, when I go to Singapore or Kuala Lumpur or other cities in the world, even Seoul and Korea, I can't tell where I'm at sometimes. It just feels like I'm in New York or because, you're in a Starbucks with Wi-Fi and
I know.
in a plaza, right? And you're like, okay, well, this is just like anywhere else. So everyone had become more or less isolated in all the cities and the urban areas around the world. And in some ways, it's worse because, like Singapore or even parts of India where I'm from, it's very community oriented, especially back in the 60s and 70s. Sometimes we didn't even have fences. Kids would just come over unannounced, have tea, sit and watch TV and play together. You don't see a lot of that now. You see play dates.
I know, right? You got to make an appointment before you come over. Don't just come over and knock on the door.
Your child has to have Google Calendar or else we're not interacting with you.
You're not on my appointment schedule today. I'm sorry. I'm
sorry, your kid's on his own. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Play dates. I'm sorry. Whenever I hear I'm like, it just sounds like an offensive thing to me. I'm like,
really?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so you can see the transition, and these people are like, kind of like, now they're so busy. I know some members of my family complain, oh, we don't get as many visits as we used to, right? People don't visit each other.
Yeah, because they don't know if they can, I mean, if it's okay.
They don't know if they can, if it's rude to come over,
I just make a point of telling my friends that, listen, if you're already in the friend zone, just come knock, we'll have a glass of wine, we'll talk. I would rather speak to you than binge watch anything, which is kind of nice because the area that I live in, I inadvertently kind of fell into that, so you have the next door neighbor who will come over with brownies that he made too much of and we'll talk for a little while or like, I mean, it's like, it's that community. Sure. And I'm like, if I move, where am I going to find this? It's so not common, It's not common where neighbors actually look out for each other, because I don't know. I know down south, because I know it's the same thing. You go in these beautiful neighborhoods. They're beautiful. Oh, yeah. Maybe there's a Victorian, maybe there's a new construct, everything's so gorgeous and there's no people around. That kill cars. I know there's people home.
Yeah, they're there, but there's nobody on the street, no children playing on the streets. It's bizarre, isn't it? if you think about
Completely, you know? So I guess the thing that I'd ask you, the closing question that I'd ask you, if you have any is there any recommendations? Like if someone's feeling themselves falling into this, like,
it.
I need to get out, I need to do things differently,
Yeah.
can you give me three things that you'd recommend to like
You
change
know,
or do
start
or
with
try?
something comfortable and people that you feel comfortable with, like a good friend, a person you talk to a little bit more, and just start building a regular scheduled time with them. Because if you're busy and you don't put it in your schedule, it probably won't happen. And make a commitment to do that. And you'll notice that you'll have certain judgments about it. Oh, is he too bored with me? Am I that interesting? Am I overbearing? And you want to just say thank you for sharing to those thoughts and press on, because you pressing on, you'll discover the delights and the pros and the benefits of socializing with
Yeah,
other people.
yeah.
And this comes from an introvert. You got to
Yeah.
get, okay.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
I mean, but we know because we're introverts that how
yeah,
important it is. Because as an introvert, you are so, I mean, we're comfortable with our own company. And
okay.
that's, and I know, I'm one of those, I know that it's not necessarily a good thing. It's
Yeah.
good sometimes, but all the time it becomes a little dangerous.
You
And
got to have that balance, and balance is an overused word, but most overused words can also have an element of truth to it.
yeah.
And so, figure out your balance, figure out where you are in that spectrum of how much social you want,
Mhm.
but start pressing that envelope, because you probably need a lot more than you think.
So I'm gonna say, what is your joy?
My joy is in hanging out with people, and like this conversation, with no particular agenda, but the agenda of creating what's in the highest good for everybody else and leaving people with a smile, if not a sweet memory. Because at the end of the day, at the end of our lives, that's all we leave are sweet memories. So
Yeah.
leave sweet memories for everyone you connect with.
Oh, totally. One thing that there's a therapist in one of my networking groups,
Yeah,
and she made a suggestion. Actually, I'll make the as one of our final suggestions to folks as something that you could try. Because sometimes we tend to kind of go within ourselves, and
yeah,
really it's about givers gain, right? It's about that circle that we create. How
yeah,
about you try bringing joy to someone else?
yeah.
Bring joy to others. You
Bring
know and
Sure.
just figure it out. It's like one of the things that I did was I said, okay, I'm going to do 10 just simple things today outside of
Yeah,
myself.
brilliant.
It's like, and it can be anything. Like one was someone got on and realized that they only had a $20 bill. And Muni in San Francisco, there is no change being given. You are out. They're like, you need to get off, right? And the train had been, I mean, it took so long for the train to come in the first place. So I just got up and just handed them $3.
Oh man, wow.
It's
Yeah,
like I mean, because we had been out there, there was some kind of delay, and now to get off and wait for the next one when we're all late. And he was like, I got to give you, I'm like, I said, just give it to somebody else because someone else is gonna go through this. Give the $3 to someone else. Just pass it on, you
yeah,
know? And then another was like helping a mom out of the bus with her stroller.
yeah.
It's like little things. Everyone's pushing by
Little,
there. Little
sure.
things. It doesn't have to
Opening the door, just saying hi to someone.
say
Uh,
good morning,
Good
smile.
morning. How are you? Even if you don't get a response, it's perfect.
I
Yeah.
have a friend who I call it aggressive hellos. She
Ah,
goes, they don't know that they need a hello. So I just say hello. Hello, how are you? Good morning. Good morning.
yeah.
Until they answer. She goes, it's good for them. They just don't know it's good for them. I'm like, okay, it's a little aggressive, but I
Yeah.
like I said, I wish we could go on because this is such an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I hope that it brings a conversation, you get a conversation started out there when you guys see this. Please reply back. Let me know some of the things that you do to bring joy, not just for yourself, but for others as well. So I'd love you to share those with me. And I'll drop in the link. And this, by the way, will also be on LinkedIn as well. So I'll share it with you so that you can have that. And,
Great.
again, Sunil, thank you so much for being on. This
Thank
was
you.
wonderful.
Yeah.
This is Paula Mattisonsierra of Power Marketing SF. I'm the host of 10 at 10, where we do these interviews every Thursday at 10 a.m. So please share them, like, love it, share it along. Our continued mission, as always, is to share great business and life information from my referral partners to help you keep moving forward. This is Paula Mattisonsierra with another episode. Hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much again, Sunil. Take care. Bye, everyone. Have a great business day.